If I can take a step back for someone who doesn't necessarily know AMRs that well, and I've certainly worked in facilities that have deployed them, but I've not programmed one myself. I wanted to maybe ask you, what could you be looking at as someone who's trying to buy an AMR, and what would be the critical parameters of one?
So payloads, as you brought up the first one, usually 250 kgs on the smaller, lightweight end. You're going to see it's not unusual to get into a 500 kg, so we can handle up to 1,000 pounds. We actually have where we can take 25, 30,000 pounds on a custom AGV through some of our suppliers. So that payload is huge. The environment is important. How many people, forklifts and other things are they going to interact with? There are some brands and some protocols deal better in a dense environment versus everybody does better when there's not a lot of interaction. How often are they going to drop a pallet in its path? So depending on that environment, we're trying to size it for that. We're looking at time. So a lot of times I'll go and I'll do a time study. How much time is this person spending walking from one end of the factory to the other and back? And that's how we help them build that ROI and identify that. So distance makes a big difference. The longer the distance, the faster the ROI. Complexity. If I'm doing, say, wave picking in a logistics warehouse, we're going down 10 aisles and that guy can now fill that robot up with the BOM, the bill of materials, the stuff he's supposed to pick. He can hit shipping station 1 through 1,000, and that robot's going to go to that exact shipping station and get that packaged and shipped out. Now that person gets to sit there, and then when he sends that robot away, it'll call another robot to him so he can continue loading. So we're looking at how they're using it. Now, more often than not, we're looking at moving material through a factory. Instead of on a chain being dragged through the factory, we're now able to take that product from station to be built like a Ford factory.
What about, I guess, two other items that came up? Battery life, right? So I'm assuming that robots need to come back and recharge. I don't know if it takes 10 minutes. I don't know if it takes 10 hours, but also, I
Yes,
guess,
you
oh,
got
go
that
ahead.
perfect. Somewhere between more than 10 minutes, usually not 10 hours. 4 to 6 hours probably is the normal, depending on the AMR. I have some that take 12 hours to charge. Now, it takes 2 days to discharge them, but
Okay.
typically about 4 to 6 hours recharge. And the robots are designed, almost everything we deal with automatically goes and finds that charger and recharges. Depending on how your settings are, if you're running a fleet manager that will sell software that runs a fleet of them, it'll pick the time that's a good time for that one to go down and be charged. Life on the battery of them usually is 8 to 12 hours. Again, it depends on how often it's being run, the payload it's running, the distance it goes. The range can be 8 to 12 hours. Some of the smaller batteries are 6 to 8 hours, depending on what that usage looks like. So
Interesting. And you, uh, go ahead, go ahead.
if you're normally running out at 6 hours, we're going to tell you 5.5 hours, go recharge that robot. Normally, you don't want to take them down to zero if you can avoid it. You're a lot less likely to have a robot stranded. And then the other thing too is keep in mind, it isn't necessarily stranded. You could always push it, but the batteries are easy to pull out, pop another battery in and send it back to the station. And that's normally the schema we recommend with the customers. Have an extra battery for just in case somehow we didn't estimate the battery life right, you can get it back to home base.